go out fishing with all the other boys, and they ridiculed me for the way I fish with the reel on top. When you're a little boy and you don't fit in with the other boys, it's real rough. They don't want to fish with you. They think there's something odd about you.
The real rebels walked a hard road. He's been put down, ridiculed, and bullied, all because he fishes with the reel on top. But the real rebel's shown courage and grit by sticking to fishing his own way with the fishing reel on top. Because the real rebel believes in his heart that fishing with the reel on top is a better way to fish. So we at Pacific Northwest Adventures have decided to set this matter straight once and for all. We've contracted with the world's premier fishing equipment research company, the Rod and Reel Research Institute, to scientifically test out the real rebel's claim that fishing with the reel on top is a better way to fish.
Hello, my name is Joseph, and I'm with RRRI, that is the Rod and Reel Research Institute. And our mission today is to determine whether it is better to have your reel below the rod or above the rod, or as some people call it, the pole. That is what we're going to determine today. For our first test, we have set up this experiment with the reel on top of the pole. We affixed tension sensors at various positions along the pole, positions A, B, C, and D. Then we simulated a 6 to 8 pound fish being caught at the end of the line, and then we measured the tension on the pole at these various points A, B, C, and D. So we ran this test, and we found, surprisingly enough, that when the reel is on the top of the pole, the tension is evenly distributed along the length of the pole. We have a working hypothesis that with the reel on top, the eyelets and the line all on top of the pole. And because the fishing line is on top of the pole, it distributes the tension evenly along the length of the pole. So when we ran the experiment with the reel at the bottom of the pole, we discovered that 98% of the tension is contained within this small eyelet at the very end of the pole. The other 2% is just held along these eyelets along the length of the pole. So, as a scientist, I must conclude that these fishing poles with the reels are designed to have the reels and the eyelets on top of the poles. Are designed to have the reels and the eyelets on top of the poles. These fishing poles with the reels are designed to have the reels and the eyelets on top of the poles. 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 For our next experiment, we wanted to determine whether the user's response times differs if there is a tangle here when the reel is on the bottom or on the top of the pole. So we had various time studies with different participants. After a number of tests in this procedure, we determined that when the reel is on top, the subjects were able to disentangle in 30% less time than when the reel was below the rod. Now let me explain why. When the reel is on top, it's much easier for the user to get to it and disentangle whatever problem may be, rather than having the reel below the pole, which is difficult to get to. So we also wanted to test the reaction time of users when the reel is on the top, as it is here, with drag and casting, as opposed to the reel on the bottom of the pole. We discovered that response time is 50% faster when the reel is on top of the pole than below. The reason why is that when the reel is at the bottom of the pole, it's much more difficult to access. In our final experiment, we discovered that with the reel on top, The average caster can cast 25% or more further than if the reel was at the bottom. And the reason, we believe, is that the user has more control of the line when the user can have his or her thumb on the line as the caster sends it out. We also discovered that when the reel is on top, if there's any kind of problem during a cast, those casters, when the reel is on top, have a greater advantage of noticing any kind of difficulty that might occur rather than those with the reel at the bottom, which is very difficult to see down there. We have ascertained when the reel is on top of the pole that the user has much more success, more control, enjoyment, access, and satisfaction rather than below it. Humans have fished for thousands of years. Now we have reached the apex of this experience.
Reel, do you have any comments on that science study we did, dude?
No, I don't have any comments. Steve, I don't need a scientist to tell me that fishing with the reel on the top is an easier way to fish. I'm done filming for the day. I'm gonna go out and do some fishing. We'll film some more tomorrow. Steve-O, on second thought, I do have a few comments. And just to be clear, these comments are not directed to those of you who peacefully fish with the reel on the bottom or the reel on the top or even on the side, because I feel that everyone should fish their own way without anybody telling them how they're supposed to fish. No, these are comments specifically to all of those folks who fish with the reel on the bottom who felt compelled to tell me all these years, some of them even former friends, that it's wrong to fish with the reel on top. And this is what I have to say to that group of people. Well. For all these years, you have been telling me that I'm fishing wrong. You've laughed at me. You've harangued me. You've insulted me in the way I fish. And you know what? I know that deep in your heart, you knew that fishing with the reel on the top was an easier way to fish. But what I think is that you couldn't admit it to yourself, because if you did admit that to yourself, then you would have to admit to yourself that you've been fishing the hard way in your entire life. Well, guess what? Former friends and others who felt compelled to tell me not to fish with a reel on the top, your day of reckoning is here, because I have been vindicated. And you can no longer live in your delusions of superiority over me. And that's because scientific proof has now shown that the more effective way, the more efficient way, the easier way to fish is with the reel on top.
Right on, Real Rebel, right on, man. You were right all along, dude.
Absolutely flawless in every way. I can stay right here and never.
Hey everyone! I do my fishing with the reel on top! When you start fishing with the reel on top, with tackle you made yourself, then you are ready to come out here on the jetty and do a little bit of hard rock fishing.
He fishes with the reel on top.